Welcome to Council Preview and the City's Administrator Report. I'm David Ballerstein, Communications Specialist with the City of Marshfield. And as always, I got Steve Barg here with us today. We're going to talk about some of the items that are going to be on the agenda for next week on the 12th, and to get a little bit of the administrator's update there, which we're going to have first. And then later in the show, we'll take a quick break and then come back with the council preview for next week. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you, David. Good to be here with you this morning.
Yeah. And so first off here on your, we take some questions out of here. So we got 5 of them this time.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think Tom always says he has 4, but we're going to do 5.
You're running the program today, David.
Right, we're running the program. So first off here, the Marshfield Business Improvement District Board, they meet a few times a year. You know, why is it important to have this kind of insight here?
Well, the Marshfield Business Improvement District, they try to work for the benefit of the downtown area. And some people get confused between those folks and the Main Street program. And they work together very closely. What the BID district is all about is they're basically taxing themselves. They're collecting money from themselves. We're the collecting agency, and we remit it back to them. And then they use the monies that they've taxed on themselves to improve the downtown, maybe aesthetically, maybe get some programs and activities that bring people to downtown to spend money, to spend time, go to the restaurants, go to the stores. And how it dovetails in with Main Street, David, is that the Main Street is a big part of it. Typically, if Main Street's got a good program, here's how we're going to use the money, whether it be for benches, planters, it's going to be to have new festivals, whatever. And then they submit that to the bid, and then the bid says, this looks good, we will give you, a portion of that money, or perhaps all the money to work toward the betterment of downtown. So they meet usually quarterly, once a quarter, more often if need be. Right now they're looking at their operating plan for 2023 to make sure that they have a set of goals and objectives that they feel good about as we head into the new year.
All right, and then on top of that there, does the downtown master plan include the Wenzel Plaza?
It does. The downtown master plan, well, actually the downtown master plan was adopted, I think, right about the time the plaza was starting to come together. But it does reference amenities. It does reference trying to bring people downtown. And right now, the Wenzel Family Plaza, how great is that? I mean, concerts, activities, festivals, just even gatherings and people having picnics with their family while the kids play in the water. So the 2023 operating plan will definitely reference the use of the Wenzel Family Plaza as a gathering spot to bring people to town. Again, it's all about more vibrancy in downtown. It may even reference the new 2nd Street corridor plan that's being worked on. Another way to try and get people to come and enjoy downtown, spend money, and just really build into the vitality of our business district.
Sure, and to go off on that there, you also mentioned a TIF district on there. For those that don't know what a TIF district, I mean, you just see a TIF, well, what does that mean for folks that don't know what a TIF district is, that, and how is that important to the city, for...
Yeah, that's a good question, David, and to really dive deeply into TIF districts would take all day. We're not going to do that.
Right.
But the premise of it is you create an area, and whatever the tax value is at the time you create it, of all those properties, that stays the same. The county gets their share, the school district gets their share, the tech college gets their share, the city gets their share. But it's kind of frozen. So if we say this area is going to be a TIF district, if we make public improvements, we improve the streets, the sidewalks, whatever we do, put sewer and water in where it's not there, maybe spend money to help developers do some building. The new value, for example, if a property goes from $200,000 to $300,000, that extra $100,000, the taxes paid on that $100,000 will come directly to the city, so that we can pay off our debt, whatever we've incurred to create that development. The other $200,000, it will still be split up. County gets their share, school gets their share, tech college, everybody. So it's a means of trying to fuel new development by saying, look, city will spend the money in various ways with the expectation that there's going to be new taxes that will help us to pay off our debt. It's probably the best tool that cities and villages have in Wisconsin to grow their communities.
Yeah, that's I guess that's really important to have that relationship between cities and counties and stuff like that for that purpose.
Well, yeah, and if you didn't have TIF districts, why would a city want to put in sewer and water and storm sewer and give money to developers? I shouldn't say give, but invest in the community for people who want to redevelop sites if the money was going to go all over the place. I mean, we incur debt to make this happen, so we certainly want to get all of our money back before everyone else starts sharing in the pot. And that's really the foundation of TIF.
All right. Next up here, our next question here. The last few months we've been filling quite a few vacant positions that's been in the city here, and it's on a few of your last shows here and some of the council meetings that we've had a difficult time filling positions, but we're excited to get a new HR director. Can you tell us their name and the importance of an HR director here in Marshfield?
Absolutely, David, and you said it very well. It's such an important position, especially in this area when we have more federal and state laws, requirements. You got the ACA, that's the Affordable Care Act, all the other things. It's all letters, right? It's all alphabet soup. But all the dictates and mandates that have to be used in employment law to make sure that you're following the rules, workers' comp, unemployment compensation, all these things. So after 4 months without someone, we now have Sarah Dressel, and Sarah comes to us with a lot of experience, and she's been in a number of communities. Local government will be new to her. As we tape this is day 2 for Sarah. But her role will be really to be making sure that we're doing everything right in employment, whether it be recruiting, benefits, meeting the legal requirements for how we treat our employees, a vast variety of things. And when I was in Ripon many years ago, I was more directly involved in human resources because we didn't have an HR director. I forgot what that was like until the last 4 months when we haven't had Jennifer Rakeu. We've been looking for a new HR director. It is very, very challenging, very detailed, and a lot to it. And I do want to thank Amy Krogman, the administrative specialist and HR assistant, who has been picking up some of the slack as well. It hasn't just been me. I don't mean to make it sound like it was all me, but there's a lot to HR, and we're happy to have Sarah on board.
Yeah, HR, there could be some touchy areas in there, and having a skilled person in that position can save the day, really. So.
Well, very true, and I want to also mention, David, if I can, our finance department. Folks from finance staff have been doing work too, and we've been filling in for the vacant position. So it is a full-time position, to say the least. It's only going to get more complicated as time passes. There's never a week or month that doesn't go by we don't get something from the federal government or the state government saying, you must now start checking this. You must now start doing these reports on your employees. It just keeps building.
Right. All right. So my next question here is, it's been 3 years since City Hall moved out of the old City Hall Plaza, which our studio is currently at on the 5th floor. Yeah. And the city took over the bank that's kitty corner from here. Now, going to a smaller building, has that saved the taxpayers a significant amount of money? And is it also more of a benefit having it at that location and something that may be more accessible, without 7 stories and a basement and all that overhead that goes into maintaining a big building?
Yeah, David, you weren't with the city when we left back in, I think, 2018, but that 7-story building that we're in right now, taping this, we were on floors 2, 5, 6, and 7. So if I wanted to go I was on floor 7. If I wanted to talk to the Park and Recreation Director, I had to go to the 2nd floor. If I wanted to talk to the Finance Director, I had to go to the 5th floor. If I wanted to talk to the Development Services Director, I had to go to the 6th floor. It's very inconvenient. We just didn't have the working synergy that we'd like. Plus, we owned a lot of space that we didn't need. We were renting it out. We had flower shop and all the things that are here, a lot of retail and office, but we're not really in the business of being landlords. So it's helped us strategically, it's helped us financially. Not only is the bank that we bought smaller to heat and cool and everything, it's also a lot newer building. When we bought it, it was about 12 years old, so now it's about 15 or 16. The building we're in right now is 5 decades plus, I believe. So we got some synergies in terms of repairs that weren't needed yet because the roof is still not old enough, and some of the other systems are in better shape than this building. So I don't know if it's been quantified, the amount we've saved, but both in terms of our efficiency and in terms of our finances, it's been a huge plus to move over to that former Forward Bank building.
All right, yeah, and the space is nicely laid out, the council chambers is nicely laid out, versus what was in the old City Hall Plaza. You had pillars in the way and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people really enjoy the more open space concept over there, and it seems like everyone really enjoys the space over there. So
they do. And it's a good point you made about the council chambers, because not only is it awkward when you're sitting in a council chambers if you want to talk to somebody on the other side of the room, but then to have a pillar in front. We actually had people who couldn't see somebody from another district unless they went Pete, I disagree with you. I mean, you're not going to have good communication from that.
Right. So, all right. So, you know, this year is already half shot already there, and, you know, and it looks like we're almost out of summer here because we're already talking about fall elections here, you know. So, but I guess that brings up another question here. So we do have fall elections coming up, but currently there's no city officials on there. So why is the clerk's office handling the elections this year?
Okay, yeah, in some years we have 4 elections during the year, and the February and April ones are city and school board type elections, and then the other ones in August and November are more state and federal. But even when it's not involving council and mayor and those kind of things, our clerk's office still is responsible for overseeing the election process here in Marshfield. We have one coming up in August. It's the primary, and governor's races on there. Other representatives and Congress races are on there. A lot of people vying for some seats this fall. And so there's a lot of work. And Jessica Schiffrell, who took over from Deb Hall, by the way, one more chance to give Deb a big shout out for her, roughly 3 decades of work as a city clerk and deputy clerk, I think, before that. But Jessica Schiffrell does a marvelous job. Ashley Drager has now joined her, and Beth Cantrell's with us as well. They have a lot of work to do, and people don't see this. You think, well, you come and vote. Go to the poll. I go to the Oak Avenue Community Center. No, you have to mail out absentee ballots to people who want them. You have to do testing of the election equipment. Any number of things that the public doesn't see. And the work starts really, they're working now to get ready for that mid-August election.
Yeah.
It's a very challenging and difficult process.
Yeah, and I imagine it's a lot of work. So on top of that, there is the clerk's office also handling both Wood and Marathon counties for this process?
We work with both those counties. Some people don't know this, especially if you're a newer resident, but there's a small part of the city that's in Marathon County. So we have to work with both Wood County and Marathon County officials on testing and verifying that our equipment is working right, submitting the required forms to both agencies, going to training sometimes with both agencies, because they want to know that the municipalities in their county are doing things right. Well, we just happen to be in 2 counties. It's kind of crazy, David, I don't know if you know this, but Appleton, the city of Appleton, is in 3 counties over in the Fox Valley. I can't imagine what that's like to have to work with 3 counties and keep it all straight. So maybe we're blessed to only have 2.
Right, and okay, well, thank you on that part there. Lastly here on our administrator's report here, we got the 2nd Street Corridor project that just passed the council. So, well, what is the next step in the process?
Good question, David. The CDA, the Community Development Authority, still has to ratify this one last time, and they'll be doing that at their July meeting. I'm not sure offhand what day this month they're meeting. But after that, it's going to be, okay, moving on to the next step, which is implementation. And all the focus has been so far on the plan. What about, do we want housing here? What kind of housing? Is that single family or multifamily? And what areas are we going to redevelop? Are we looking for commercial or retail? Now it's going to be, okay, we've got a plan. How do we move forward? How do we finance public improvements? That's where TIF comes in. We'll probably be looking at creating a TIF district. And who is the driver? Who's going to lead the charge here? Is it going to be the new economic development director that hopefully we are able to hire here in the next month or so? Is it going to be the academic development board? Is it going to be the plan commission? Is it going to be the consulting firm, Vanderwall, who helped us? We're looking for a little more assistance from them, but are they driving the car here? That'll be a really big piece. Who's leading the charge, and what are the first steps? And you'll probably see this develop in phases, probably 3 or 4 stages. But the implementation is going to be coming up as we get into the back half of summer, and that part is still yet to be fully baked.
Okay, so lots going on here. So that brings the end of the administrator's report. We'll take a short little break and we'll get into council preview, so stay tuned.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back. We now start our second part of the program here in Council Preview. Again, I got Steve Barg here, City Administrator with the City of Marshfield here to talk about some of the items that are going to be up on the next council there. That's going to be on July 12th. That's already next week there. So, Steve, one of the items that are going to be on there is going to be approval purchase of a wheeled loader. I know you can't do the job if you don't have the equipment, and if the equipment's got too many hours, it's pretty costly to replace. So give us a little information on that there.
Yeah, and I wasn't at the Board of Public Works meeting the other day, David, but I want people to know that we are very thoughtful. I mean, sometimes you budget $80,000 to replace something, and people think, well, you just go out and buy something for the heck of it. No, we get quotes, we review them, we bring them to the Board of Public Works. That's half of the council. And we go through them and make sure that, first of all, do we need to do this? Or can we get by a couple more years without, we all have this at our own homes. I have a 2005 Saturn, and, I talk about this with my wife. Well, when is it time to replace it? Well, still not incurring a lot of costs. But then there comes a time when you really need to replace. You need to have good equipment for the crew to work. So in this case, they were looking for a wheel loader. I believe they got 3 quotes. I don't have the winner in front of me, but they are recommending it's within budget for the council to make that purchase.
All right. Next, there's going to be an authorized request for a proposal for labor law services. What is that, Steve?
Well, we don't have any state requirement, David, that we go out to bid for services. We look for auditors, banking. We just got a banking thing where we went with Forward Bank for the next few years. Assessing. In this case, we've used a firm called Von Briesen to do our labor law. That's employment law. And in the last 3 or 4 years, you probably heard this, even though you weren't here. We've had some pretty dicey things that have come up with our employees and had to incur some legal costs. So I think it was Adam Fisher, one of our council members, said, well, if we haven't bid this out for a while, why don't we find out what other law firms are out there? Maybe we go with Von Briesen. Maybe we stay with them. But maybe we find another one that has staff and has a price and whatever that looks more favorable to us. So what I'll be bringing to them is a request for proposals, or maybe just a request for qualifications for them to give a blessing to, and then we'll move forward and we'll go out and find out what other law firms there are. And believe me, there are several across the state that perform employment law services for their clients.
All right. So the next item here, I guess we're going to tag team this one together here, because this is going to.
Oh yeah.
This is part of my part of my domain here too. So. What's being put on for our council on next week is to request approval of the low power FM radio station there. If you want to fill in a little information, and if you have any questions on here, we'll tag on this here, because I got information on this too. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, David. Periodically when Tom interviews me, and Tom's away right now, I'll be the interviewer for an item that relates to communications, and I think if it's okay, I might do that. But there's been talk for a while off and on about getting a low power FM station for the city as part of our communication strategy to reach the public. And David, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about how that's intended to be an outreach, and how it would work, and what we would hope to accomplish by having a station like that.
Yeah, so part of that, we had the discussion on it that of bringing low power FM to the council there for their blessing on there, or at least give them information on what it would do for our community. A low power FM station is exactly what it is. It's available to non-commercial so it's educational broadcast only, so it would include public safety and items of that nature. It'd also be available for educational entities, transportation organizations. So the one thing that we can't do on there, of course, is do advertising, so that'd be against that. With that, we have a limited amount of power that would be output to transmit. So 100 watts ERP, or an effective radiated power, that just means that the amount of energy that can leave the antenna. So we priced up a transmitter that's 300 watts, but everyone's going to, well, why do you need 300 watts when you can only put out 100? Well, you have that loss of the coax that goes all the way up to the tower and then out. So, but other than that, community producers would be able to produce their own shows and have informational items. Two, a lot of our council meetings and stuff like that, a lot of that could be converted right over the audio, for rebroadcast over on radio there. So it would almost seem like a talk show in a sense without the video. So which makes a lot of sense. And the question was also brought up is if it would, require an additional person to be hired to fill that position, and that's not the case. So like what we're doing today, I could just pull the audio and run it.
Wow,
so,
nice.
So
Nice.
which is one thing. But not only that, it would serve the community. Steve, you and Tom been working on community engagement platforms and stuff like that, getting the community involved, and a source and a way of getting information out quickly and accessibly to our residents here in Marshfield. And for those that don't have cable, because we got rural folks in the community too that may not have services out there. And they projected, a 3.5 mile radius out, but we were looking at going up on the water tower over by the hospital, which is the highest spot here. So we did all the scientific, calculations. Me being the ham radio operator that I am, I do a lot of antenna math. So we kind of figure that we can at least get 20 miles out.
Oh, great.
So I mean that's regular programming, informational, and also safety. So if something happens, within the city, we can get that message out. So I think though I covered on a few benefits and key things on there that would really benefit the residents of Marshfield and for the city of another tool of communication, Steve.
Yeah, David, that's great. I like the 20-mile radius because, truthfully, there are people out towards Spencer, Stratford, Pittsfield who, this is their hub. They come here to shop. They come here to do all sorts of things. It's the place that they go to get the services they need in many cases. They care about our city too, even if they're not living within the city limits. So that's good to hear. Would this be a 24/7 operation or only, an as-needed type of thing?
Yeah, so the FCC would require, I believe, a minimum of, I thought it was like 12 hours of broadcast a day.
Okay.
But the system that we're looking at would do it operate 24 hours. So just kind of like our broadcast, of our TV playback, I program that schedule, for 24 hours a day for the whole week, and then or weeks on end, and it takes care of itself. So there are some programs that can be done live during the day, and then the rest are just pre-recorded and will automatically play throughout the day. So there are stipulations, and another requirement is that we would also have to have an EAS, and for those that don't know what it's emergency alert system. So, you heard on the radio for news, and then Amber Alerts and stuff like that. We're required to have that device at the transmitter site to get that message out. And there was going to be one other thing that I was going to say on there. There is a window that the FCC opens up.
You can't just apply anytime.
You can't just apply anytime, and that date is projected to open up within the next year. So it looks like every 10 years. The last one was 2013. So and then before that was about 2004. So once we get the license application is absolutely free. So that doesn't cost anything to apply for the license. We would just have 1.5 years to get the equipment and start going on air. Once we get everything ready to go, then we tell the FCC, hey, we're done. This is our specs. Here you go, and then they grant us the full privilege to start transmitting. So
yeah, the 1.5 years I imagine is because once they approve, they want to see somebody using it. They don't want to see licenses issued and then not being utilized.
Right.
So. And so, but as I understand it, as we go to the council on Tuesday night, the real goal is to get the council on board, give its blessing, its approval, that when we can apply, whenever that happens, they've given us the chance to do that, to get a low power FM station.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it there. So I think it'd be a nice, great tool for our community.
I agree.
Yeah. So, All right, so next up, I guess this is going to be a touchy subject here. I don't know who presented this. Was it a member of the community, somebody on the board? But you know, we've had a lot of things going on in the country lately. You know, the shooting down south in Texas, and just recently in Chicago down there.
Yeah.
There has been a request to reconsider council decision on prohibiting firearms in City Hall. Now, some people might, you know, some people kind of feel itchy when there's a, you know, like concealed carry or stuff like that. You know, sometimes when I see a concealed carry, I'm like, whoa, you know, I'm like, I kind of feel uneasy. You know, what was how did this come up, and you know, what is going to be, you think, going to be the direction that this is going to go, and why this is even on there?
Good points, David. First of all, the discussion kind of mirrors the what you see when you turn on cable TV channels. If you turn on the cable TV news, you'll see two people with the opposing views saying it's a good thing or it's a bad thing to allow firearms in a building or, you know, in a community. You know, the one side says, hey, they're dangerous. People get injured by firearms, accidents happen, all these kind of things. The other side will say, but you know, the bad guys have them, so you need people to be able to protect themselves. In 2019 and again in 2021, this was brought up by members of the council based on hearing from constituents. There are people in Marshfield who concealed carry, you know, and so they want to be able to come to City Hall just like they can come to other places with their firearm. And it's funny, David, because the first time it was a 5-4 vote against, and then 2 years later it was brought up again, and it was a 5-5 tie, but we didn't have a mayor to break the tie, so it effectively died. Now, Mike O'Reilly, one of our two newest council members, who started in April, he said, look, I just think we need to take another look at this. He's supportive of concealed carry, and he really wants to have a good discussion on it. So I think some of the council might be thinking, if they've been around for a while, haven't we had this dialogue before? And they have, but you know, after a year or two, I mean, people want to bring it back and review it again. Did we make the right decision, or is it appropriate to change course? So I think it'll be a healthy discussion, and whether or not they want to take it up a third time is up to the body.
All right. Yeah, it'd be real interesting how that will turn out on Tuesday there. So.
Well, and let me add, if I can, real quickly.
Sure.
The first time this came up, the council asked me to do a survey of our employees. What do the people who work in City Hall think? Because we care about them, you know, their safety. And it was almost 50-50. It was actually like, you know, when Gallup takes a poll or something, people are polarized on this. Roughly half of the employees said they really didn't want to see weapons allowed in the building. The other half said they thought it was appropriate for people to be able to defend themselves. So, you know, it's not something everyone agrees on.
Right. So I guess then that's going to be a discussion that will be had on Tuesday.
Correct.
There, so, all right. Another topic there, which comes back to us again here. So there's going to be a report. I believe Tom's going to probably have this ready to go. The cost of video coverage for all city meetings.
Yeah, we've heard this debate now for a few meetings. You've seen it happen in front of you as well. You know, for a long time we just covered the council meetings, the two council subcommittees, the Plan Commission. Then we kind of grew it a little bit. We added Police and Fire. We added Utilities and Economic Development Board. Well, recently we've added a couple more. We're doing Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, and Judiciary and Licensing, and also through outside help we're going to cover the school board meetings. But there's a lot of other committees out there. Historic Preservation, the Communications Committee itself, and many others. So the talk is, where do you stop? And you know, I think in an ideal world, David, maybe every single committee would be covered, but there's only two of you, and there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so many hours, I mean, for us to pull this together. So it was Tom Witzel at our last meeting said, well, you know what, there's an argument to be made if we're going to add Police and Fire and all these other ones, we ought to do them all. What would that cost? Now the question is going to be hard cost versus opportunity cost. Anytime you or Tom are covering a meeting, that's time that you're not able to do something else, including be away from here.
Right.
But you know, if the importance is there, then we need to reshuffle the deck and make that work. But there's going to be a cost in terms of what other projects can be done. There's only so much of you and Tom to go around. So I don't know if Tom is going to focus more on the hard cost or more on the real staffing issues in terms of what would it mean to try and cover every city meeting. Probably a mix of both is what he'll be talking about.
Right, and sometimes there's 2, 3 meetings going on all at the same time. So you're Stretch Armstrong pretty much. So I guess we're looking at other avenues of trying to automate some of that. So I guess that will be on there.
And in different buildings.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of our meetings happen at City Hall. They happen at the 2nd Street Community Center, Police and Fire Building, Utilities Building. The remote sites make it even harder. And like you said, maybe someday we'll have cameras in place that will be able to allow us to do it, better in terms of technology. But right now, it's a matter of, you have to be set up in all these places, and it's there's a lot of remote meetings here.
Yeah. So all right. So we'll go on to the next one
Okay.
here. There's going to be we got a staff report, a potential financial and budgetary impact of tax case with the Marshfield clinic system. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
I'd be glad to, David. The clinic, and again, our biggest employer, our biggest taxpayer, we're so grateful to have that wonderful medical facility here, the clinic and hospital, known all across the state of Wisconsin and beyond. We're thankful for them. 2 years ago, though, they decided, they have every right to do this as a taxpayer, that they wanted to say, look, 2 parcels that we have, the one that the East Wing is on and the one that the main clinic building is on, we believe that they're more like a hospital now than a clinic. And there is an exemption under state law in Wisconsin that if you are more like a hospital than a clinic, you can be exempted from real estate taxes. Well, that would be a big hit to the city. I mean, we're talking a lot of money that is paid by these 2 parcels. So we're going through right now a case where we're trying to figure out with our attorneys and their attorneys, may end up in court someday. It may well end up in court, whether they're right, whether we're right, or whether it's kind of mix and match. Maybe part of the facility is more like a hospital doing some surgeries. Maybe part of the facility is more like a clinic with doctor's offices and little lab areas. So it might be we win part, they win part. But what's being said, Ed Wagner, one of our council members, brought this up. What happens if we lose all or part of this? What's going to happen to our budget? What's going to happen to our finances? How are we going to account for losing hundreds of thousands of dollars? That's a really good question. So what I'm going to do on Tuesday night, I'm not going to have particulars. I'm not going to say, well, we're cutting this out, we're closing this, we're firing this person. But it's going to be, look, if we have to do this, here's the amount of money we'd have to cover in the budget, and here's some options. Here's what a tax increase of so many % would raise. And we'd have to have that plus maybe cutting so much in spending. How would we put together a package that would be able to accommodate that loss of revenue? And that's what I'll be bringing on Tuesday night at a high level.
Right. All right. So we got one more topic here, I guess, that's going to be on there. Possible assistance for the project located at TIF District number 10. It is under a closed session. Is there any bits of that you can discuss about that, Steve?
Yeah, I can, David. When it's in closed session, it means I can't say a lot because the reason we're there is it's confidential. But I think, even though we put it on the agenda like that, it pertains to the Marshfield Mall. And I think people know that the mall is not doing all that wonderfully. There are a lot of vacancies there. And malls across the country are struggling. It's not just here in central Wisconsin. So the developer, a couple months ago, open session, proposed a new idea. He wants to do more of what they do in like Plover and Rib Mountain, where you have a series of retails instead of having an enclosed mall. And there'd be a lot of work to be done to make that happen, of remodeling, renovation, to open that up. And so he's looking for some help from the city as part of it, as part of his overall financing package. So, we've been talking for a few meetings now. We're going to see if we get to something where we can be a piece of helping to make this happen. I got to tell you, the council is very concerned about the taxpayers and about making sure that any decision that they make is financially sound. But we'd all like to see the mall be able to grow and develop with new retailers. So I can't really say anything more than that right now. I don't know exactly how this is going to end up, but that's the crux of what this discussion is about.
All right. Yeah, it'd be real exciting to see newer development going on, or a breath of fresh air, put into the city in some areas.
And it would, David, and it even goes beyond the mall itself. It's for the whole community. Right now, a lot of people leave town on Saturdays to go to Wausau. If they had more stores they liked here, not only would they shop at those stores, but they'd eat here instead of Wausau restaurants. They'd buy gas here instead of Wausau. They'd spend their time, money, and energy in Marshfield, and that's where we want them. And so it is good to have more opportunities for people to shop here. It benefits us all. Benefits us in a lot of ways, actually.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that brings the end to the show here. Steve, is there anything else that you want to put in here before we close?
Really, David, I'll just say it's not a long agenda for the meeting, but kind of a little break. Pretty soon we're going to be diving into the budget for 2023, and you'll see a lot more on that topic as well. So we have times that are a little busier, times a little more hectic. I think you'll see it ramp up in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, fall is going to be a busy time.
It will.
Yeah, it will.
Always is.
So, okay. Well, thank you, Steve, so much for coming back up here today. We always look forward to doing this program there. So I always enjoy it myself too.
Good to be here, and nice job on the program, David.
All right.
Whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera.
Usually I'm behind the camera.
Yeah.
So, but today I'm in front because, well, we decided to give Tom some time off.
Yeah,
so.
he deserves a little time away, but you do a good job on both ends.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Administrator's Report and Council Preview. I'm David Ballerstein, along with Steve Barg here. Take care, and we'll see you next time.